This computer. All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Fake Radio. We're here with the rapper OE is here today. You know, it's late night in the studio again. We got the candle going right here. You know, as normal.
What's up, yo?
Was good. So see, I like that I'm doing like, or I mean, I don't love it, but I like that I'm doing like a group, like people who all know each other coming on the podcast now, because like they all name
Yeah,
drop other people. So like, if
for
people have
sure.
been listening to this whole thing, they know who you are already because we've mentioned you on multiple episodes.
Right.
So they know of you, but they don't know who you actually are. But you're in Connecticut right now, correct?
Well, they're about to find out. Yeah. I'm in Connecticut, so it's kind of wild. I am Boston based because I go to Emerson like you,
Right.
and I've been working with the Hip Hop Society at Emerson College
Mm-hmm.
for the past like 2 years,
Long time.
sort of building that organization up
Yep.
and trying to make it into a bigger thing.
Mm.
And then that was just sort of a conduit into me doing music,
Right.
but I'm originally from, like, I grew up in Connecticut, and that's
Yeah.
where I am right now during all of this
Yeah.
madness. It's actually kind of wild when the pandemic started,
Uh-huh.
like when stuff was really starting to get serious.
Yeah.
um
You were on vacation.
like obviously the pandemic started a long time ago. Yeah, I was on
Yeah.
vacation. I was with my partner in Florida,
Mm.
and like we got down there, like
Mm.
we were gonna be there for like 5 days, and then
Yeah.
I was gonna come back on like the Thursday, fly back to Boston on the Thursday, and then
Right.
Friday I was gonna do the show,
Yeah.
the like
You were
the
gonna do the
release
show.
show
Yeah.
for the Hip Hop Society's new album.
Yeah.
And then two things happened.
Yeah.
One, obviously, like, Massachusetts went into a state of emergency, and everything went sort of left, and so the show got canceled,
Yeah.
and stuff got crazy. But also, I got sick in
Yeah.
Florida.
Right.
Like, and it was even before I sort of heard about Massachusetts declaring a state of emergency. Like, we
Yeah.
got there after like a long day of flying. I like lay down. I was like, dang, I'm really sore. And it was sort of like the kind of sore when you're sick, but I was like, maybe I'm just tired, and I went to sleep. Next day I was feeling fine, and then
Uh-huh.
it hits like 8 p.m, and I'm just covered with chills and like a
Yeah.
fever, and it was really bad. I don't know if it was COVID. The doctors I went and saw said it was probably the flu,
Yeah.
but it was very weird to be like seriously sick and in isolation
Oh,
while like the rest of the world was going crazy
yeah,
about
no,
this
like
pandemic.
before
Yeah.
before like it was like an established thing, and when everything was just going haywire, everyone who I was talking to was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I did have it like this one time." I was like, "That's like a big
Yeah, there
deal."
were people.
Had it like
Well, it was that there was that thing where like people in January were getting the flu, even though I know like a couple people who like got the flu in January, even though they had their flu shots, and at the
right.
time they were like, this is because, it's just because they gave like the wrong strain of flu shot, like
Right.
the flu shot they got wasn't able to
Mhm.
handle the particular strain of
Yeah.
flu that was going around,
Yeah.
and that's most likely what it was. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am over here like what if, because we know COVID has been in the country since January.
Yeah.
Um, like, and so yeah,
No,
it's wild.
I remember right when I wrapped up my interview with Stefan, like the second I wrapped it up, I dapped him up, and then I went back to my suite mates, and they were like, "Dude, the first guy in Boston got it," and I was like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
yeah.
outside anyway." They were like, "Oh, you know."
Well, it wasn't. See, I remember when they were talking about like people at BU having there being
Right.
COVID
Yeah.
cases at BU, and like me and my apartmates were like,
Mhm.
"Oh, ah,"
Yeah.
but things were still sort of going as normal.
Right.
Um, but yeah, no,
And then it just kind of hit.
it's a wild time.
But
It's been
you know,
crazy. I realized like as of, I think, yesterday or the day before, I've been here because I flew straight back to Connecticut from Florida. I
yeah,
didn't go back to Boston. It was crazy. I like left my apartment, and I was like, I'll be back in a week.
yeah,
Haven't been back in like 8 weeks,
yeah,
um, or like 9 weeks actually now.
mhm,
So yeah, it's a
yeah,
trip. But I'm here, and I'm with my family, and we're all safe.
yeah,
And that's been good.
yeah. What was it like
Um,
growing up in Connecticut?
mean, really interesting. I mean, I think it's I'm sort of super fascinated. Yeah, I mean, I think like every state sort of has this to some extent,
Yeah.
but I think Connecticut is a really interesting, weird. Uh, it's a weird sort of confluence of a bunch of different kinds of people. I was talking to Jonah Free about this on the phone the other day. I don't,
Yeah.
you know Jonah.
I
He's
know him. Yep.
a hip hop society alumni
Yeah.
because he's down in Bridgeport right now,
Oh, okay.
and so like I mean Connecticut's interesting because like where I grew up, I grew up in stores, specifically like a part of stores called Eagleville,
Yeah.
but I grew up in stores, which is sort of the only notable feature about stores is it's where UConn is, University
Okay.
of Connecticut,
Yeah.
and it's a very strange place because it's like it's a college town because UConn's there,
Hmm.
but it's also like in the middle of cow country. So
Yeah.
there's this strange dynamic of like it's kind of suburban and a lot of the people living here are like white upper middle class, but
Yeah.
it's also like right on the like but also like all around it is like super agrarian area.
Hmm.
There's also like you know like down the road from me is like an old mill town,
Yeah.
um and like and the other thing that's sort of been especially we're in the last few years is UConn has done a lot of sort of like building and development, and they built it. I mean, like within the past, like 5 to 7 years, they built
Yeah.
this like downtown, uh, like at sort of like right across the street from my high school, which is right next to the UConn campus, and it became like
Yeah.
the stores downtown. And
Hmm.
so it's become weirdly urbanized, as urban as you can get out here.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so yeah, it's just it's a weird place. There's like a lot of uh sort of disparity going on. I mean, the other thing just about Connecticut as a state in general is like just one of the biggest wealth disparities in the country,
Yeah.
um, and just like a lot of really interesting dynamics that result from that. So it's an interesting place to grow up in,
No, it's
and I think especially to Boston from that is
yeah.
yeah
I remember I stayed there one time with some people, and like the whole reason we were going to Connecticut, because it was like it was the boonies, and like we just wanted to do like a
yeah
bonding thing out here. But I remember
right
I forget what the town was called, but it had like life-size golden statues of people with realistic clothes. I don't know
hmm.
where, like
I, I can
that
think of
was
a couple of places where that might be applicable, but
like Sudsbury
yeah,
or something.
there are a lot of Burries in
Okay, yeah,
Connecticut, lots
nah,
of
yeah.
but yeah, no, it's yeah, I could see that.
And then
It's interesting. Yeah, like I feel like when people think about Connecticut, they
yeah,
either think like it's either like the middle of nowhere is sort of
right,
what they think. Like
yeah,
I just know a lot of people who are like whenever I like take the train, like people who are like taking the train to New York or whatever, like
hmm,
or a bus and they pass through Connecticut and they're like it's just a barren wasteland.
yeah,
And there isn't like a lot going on around here.
hmm,
So they either think of that or they think of like the super rich motherfuckers who live in Greenwich
yeah,
and places like close to New York,
hmm,
or they think of submarines because
yeah,
like there was sort of a big submarine manufacturing. I mean, also
hmm,
just generally like lots of weapons manufacturing
yeah.
in the state.
No, but I remember we went to like a Switzerland themed golf course. It was an interesting four
That's
days.
crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
so one of the first things I found out about you when we met was that you got into hip hop through Hamilton.
I did. I
Explain.
did. I'm that white person. So I mean,
Yeah, explain that. Explain
I
how.
mean,
Like,
like, I mean, I wear it on my sleeve. Like, I'm not gonna, front about it.
no, I
Like,
love it.
absolutely. I got into hip hop. I got
Yeah,
into hip hop through Hamilton and Watsky. Those are
right,
sort of like the two entry points that I had for it.
right,
Um,
right.
Watsky because I had like an older friend who listened to him and I was like, I want to be cool like that, and so I checked out Watsky and sort of found out more. about him and his music,
Yeah.
and that was an access point. But also with Hamilton, like I would have been like 17, would have been like 2015. I was a theater kid
Yeah.
in high
Right.
school,
Right.
and
Right.
also a little bit in middle school. Like I was a big theater and choir kid.
Yeah.
I came up in those circles. That was sort of my friend group,
Yeah.
and when I remember distinct, like Hamilton, like I think had only been at the public, or at least it hadn't exploded in a big way when I found out about it.
Okay.
It would have been, I'm trying to remember exactly when, but it would have been sometime in 2015, maybe 2014, when
Yeah.
I found the video of Lin-Manuel Miranda at the White House doing the opening number. And that was
Okay.
all we had. It was like that, and then maybe a little bit of my shot that you could see in like the trailer for it when it was off Broadway at the public.
Yeah.
Um, and so I I mean, but through like that song, I I also found In the Heights and a lot of the
Right.
other sort of work that Lynn had done with sort of
Yeah.
putting rap and hip hop into musical theater. And
Yeah.
then it was just sort of, from there it was like, you know, I'm very conscious of the fact that like Hamilton's an interesting kind of gateway drug, because I feel like a lot of, not
It's
to generalize, but I do feel like a lot of white people like will listen to Hamilton. Like Hamilton is like the the sort of acceptable hip hop
it,
for people from a certain
um
background, to listen to, um, and they don't necessarily go into all the sort of other
no,
stuff in
that's
hip
my
hop.
one main issue with Hamilton is that
Yeah, I mean
that
it's
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton is a whole other, like I could talk about Hamilton for ages. I did my freshman honors thesis on Hamilton. I wrote
Oh, okay.
like a 50-page paper
Yeah.
on Hamilton. But I mean, I think the thing that's like like a lot of people are like, oh, it's like rap, but it's about the founding fathers, so I can access it. This is like like certain
Yeah.
kind of white person.
Well,
Um, and they memorize the whole soundtrack to Hamilton, but they've never heard, like, I don't know, like a Kendrick song or a
yeah.
Black Thought song
No, that was
or anything like that. And I will say for like, and I at least feel like I'm aware, like there's a certain stereotype that comes to like the person who gets into hip hop because of Hamilton. But I do
yeah.
feel like I did my research after it. I didn't sort of just
Yeah.
come into it and then Hamilton was just the thing I clung to.
You became a
Like
rapper
sort
after
of,
that.
yeah, but yeah, and I I did my research. I'm sort of like, if nothing else, I'm just a big nerd, and I just got really
Yeah.
fascinated with sort of the art of hip hop, but also just the culture, um, all the sort of history of it, and I delved into that really deep, and
Mhm.
I think I you know I learned a lot more about hip hop and listened to a lot more hip hop than maybe the average person who
Yeah.
who's exposed to Hamilton. And it's kind of a shame, because like I think about, like, it's sort of the same sort of people who, like, it's like, oh, I don't listen to hip hop, but I listen to Macklemore. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Which I know for a fact, like, makes Macklemore very unhappy.
Oh, no, he
You know
is,
what I
yeah.
mean? Uh, and so and it's a shame that there isn't sort of like like that more people haven't been able to sort of cross
Mm,
that
my thing
threshold.
my thing
Um,
is like, cause like with my generation, I know a ton of white kids who got into hip hop through Community with Childish Gambino. Like
oh
they just
yeah, word,
became
yeah.
extreme Childish Gambino fans because they watched Community. And I was like, before I found out about Hamilton, I was already familiar with David, like clipping and all that stuff. So I was
Oh yeah,
like,
clipping's amazing.
yeah. So then like I was like, how is it that like I know so many kids who like got into hip hop through Community, but like through a show about rapping, like how is like clipping's numbers not like skyrocketing through the roof?
No, it is
Yeah.
crazy. And I
Yeah.
actually, when like going off of Hamilton, that just like was a gateway access for me to all of David's music. Like even
Yeah.
like the old stuff he did with the Get Back.
Right.
Him, you were there when Raphael Casal
Yeah.
came to Emerson, and the Hip Hop Society sort of got to have a special conversation with him. And that happened because like I saw he was coming and I got so excited because when I was 17, 18, I got to see Hamilton
Hmm.
when it was on Broadway. Like,
Yeah.
I got very, very lucky. My family knew someone who was very, very generous and gave us some tickets back when it was sort of like like before it got insane, but also like it was still pretty inaccessible. And
Yeah.
under normal circumstances, we
No,
wouldn't have
I
been able to
I
afford
saw
those
it
seats.
live too.
Uh, yeah, and so like after that, that soundtrack just sort of became that album became the soundtrack of my senior year. But I also like went off and like looked at all the rap music David did, which a lot of it also involved Raphael. And so I was just absorbing all of that, and it was really cool to get to like meet him in person.
Hmm.
Um, as that's what I mean when I say like I think for me it was a thing of like I really wanted to like learn more about this. I wanted to like consume as much of it as I could. And I think it's interesting because I feel, and I've thought about this a lot. I feel like, and we've had conversations about this because like with the Hip Hop Society at Emerson, I feel like there are so many people at Emerson who listen to hip hop, um,
Yeah.
or are into hip hop. Um, but I feel because hip hop is like this is not a controversial statement. Hip hop is like the most popular music genre right
Oh,
now.
it is. Yes.
Uh,
Number one.
it's definitive. It's sort of the most uh, popular and significant music genre. And also I would say like it's just one of the most significant from a cultural perspective, right? Hip hop culture is so uh, like essential to contemporary American culture, and reveals so much about contemporary American culture. And so I always find it so interesting that like more people like aren't as fascinated with it as I am. I guess I feel like there are a lot of people who like hip hop or consume hip hop, but it's sort of in a passive way. Um, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna like there's a lot of like hip hop music I like and I listen to, but I'm not necessarily like invested in like the history of what this bar means, what I mean, or
Yeah.
who's being referenced, what the I talk all the time, like this is sort of an example I used all the time, but I think about like the number of people who like listen to Travis Scott like Sicko Mode and don't know that there's like a Biggie sample in there, and have
Yeah. No,
never
it's
heard Give Me the
funny.
Loot,
I was talking to my cousins who are like 10 years old and they play Fortnite, and they were like, "We love the Travis Scott thing." I was like, "Oh, I've seen him
Yeah,
like
he did
live."
that Fortnite concert. He did that Fortnite concert a
Yeah, and
little
I
bit
was like, "Oh,
ago.
I've seen him live like 2 years ago." Like, but
Yeah.
so this leads me into my next question. Um, so you so no one like around you before you discovered Hamilton was like into hip hop. So how did they react when you decided to become a rapper?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, again, I feel the more I look back on it, like the more I realize that there were maybe some people who were into. I remember I have a very distinct memory of being a freshman in high school before I was into hip hop at all, and like listening to a few seniors talk about like a 2 Chainz song, like they were having a discussion about a 2 Chainz song. So it's
Okay.
not like hip hop like wasn't a thing in my high school, or like
Right.
people around me weren't necessarily listening to it. I think
Yeah.
it was just like I wasn't friends with those people because they were mostly like popular people, um,
Okay.
and also like I didn't grow up in a household where I was listening to hip hop.
Yeah.
Um, like, and there's nothing. If anything, I mean, I'm lucky that I have a lot of like really supportive and wonderful people around me. Uh, in terms of like my parents are always like supportive of everything I choose to do. Sometimes they'll give me my thoughts on it if they feel like I'm doing something that's like not cool, but you know what I mean. They're supportive of what I choose to do with myself.
Hmm.
Um, but the other thing is like I don't know. I started getting into hip hop sort of at the tail end of high school, and not a lot of people in my friend group were really into it, and I wasn't really
Yeah.
a rapper yet. I don't
Right.
think I really became I didn't become a rapper. It still feels weird for me to say that I'm a rapper. I know I am, but there's
That
just
is
like
what you
there's
are.
a certain like baggage that comes with that term, right?
Yeah.
And so it's strange, but at the end of high school I was just like writing like mostly it was that I had memorized a bunch of raps.
Hmm.
Um uh but I wasn't writing my own.
Yeah.
so much. I wasn't writing my own sort of bars and my own music.
Yeah.
So I don't really feel like I feel like people definitely knew I was into hip hop. I remember because again, I was a theater kid and I was in a drama production my senior year of high school where it was this play called Midsummer Jersey. Um, I don't know if anyone has heard of this play, but
Yeah.
it's an adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream set on the Jersey Shore. It's by Ken Ludwig. Uh, and there are these sections of it, right? I was playing Oberon, who's king of the fairies. And there are sections of this play that are done in verse, where Oberon and Puck, his sort of magical assistant servant, speak in verse.
Mhm.
And I was like, what if we rapped this? Because I was just really into rap at the time, and I really liked that idea. In retrospect, it may have come off kind of cringy and weird, but I like semi convinced my director to let us do it, and then my director asked me to write a song for the end of the show because she wanted this sort of big finale thing, and so I wrote a song and had like a verse for my Oberon character.
Yeah.
So anyway, the people around me like in high school knew I was into rap. They knew it was a thing. I
Yeah.
feel like they were just like they just weren't into it in the same way, and we didn't
Yeah.
really talk about it. Like I didn't really have anyone who I could talk to about hip hop.
Yeah.
People thought it was cool that I could spit. I
It's
remember
mad
certain
funny.
certain people being surprised that I could spit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, there are a lot of friends from high school like who I know if they found out I was like rapping now would just be like what, which I would find that really strange, which I talk about in a little bit of my music, but yeah, it's interesting.
No, it's funny
I feel
because
like I
at my high school, they were like to make us read Shakespeare. They were like trying to convince us that Shakespeare was just like Eminem. They're like, "See, guys, see." And
Yeah,
yeah,
which I think is a fallacy. I think it's really that Eminem is like Shakespeare.
yeah,
I think
no,
that's really what it's more is. It's
yeah,
just like, and I think that's like rap is absolute like is poetry, and
no,
MCs are
100%.
sort of this generation's like I think that we don't talk enough about the sort like we don't have enough sort of criticism about sort of the literary output
Of
in
course.
music, and
Mhm.
poetry began as music, so
Yeah,
rap is obviously an extension of that. But yeah, it's definitely like one of those like teaching tactics of like, oh, we got to relate to the youth by like, there's an SNL skit actually with Lin-Manuel Miranda where they make fun of that. But yeah, so
okay,
like, yeah, I mean, in high school, like, I didn't have a lot of people. I mean, there were people who were into rap around me who weren't really my friends. I
yeah,
remember there was this one kid who like challenged me to a rap. It wasn't like challenged. It wasn't a serious thing, but he was like, do you want to do a rap battle? Because he'd heard from other people that I could rap, and I
yeah,
remember like writing bars to prepare for that, and then it never happened.
mhm,
uh, it was fun. It was funny too because I did not know this guy at all. So yeah, it was sort of strange, and I felt like I didn't like have a lot of people to sort of talk to about rap. I
yeah,
feel like my sense of like having community with my love for hip hop sort of started when I came to high school. One of my roommates freshman year,
yeah,
David was really into hip hop, and I also
right,
and also our friend Reed, who didn't live with us, but who is a rapper as well. Um, we all met up and we sort of became a little trio that would talk about rap music all the time.
yeah,
And actually, they pushed me to actually get even more into rap because when I got to college, it was just a lot of rap music I'd never listened to or didn't know about. And I also feel like I didn't know as much about hip hop fan culture. It's like a very specific thing of like hip hop fan culture,
yeah,
whenever an album comes out, like discussing whether it's good or whack.
yeah,
The sort of like rankings of albums, like that was just I mean, I'd sort of seen bits and pieces of that in the consuming of
yeah,
hip hop that I'd done before, but again, I didn't have anyone to interact with, so I didn't sort of see that, and that really started for me in
yeah,
college. And then also a little bit with the original Hip Hop Society.
yeah,
And then again, like I was writing raps like since my freshman, like I was writing raps and recording demos my freshman year of college. Um, for for those people who listening who don't know, there was an organization at Emerson called the Hip Hop Society, which is
And how
distinct
did
from
you
the
get into
one
that?
that exists now. I met them at the other org fair. Like I was
Okay.
walking by their table and they were bumping King Kunta, and I was like,
Okay.
okay, these are some people who are into what I'm into,
Right. Right.
and also like can look. And I remember going to the meeting, and to the meetings, and they were, it was it was mostly producers, but there were also some rappers in there, and it was an interesting experience because I was very young and I was very sort of like eager to, I guess, prove myself and sort of be part of this community and stuff. And so I remember like when they were talking about making music and making an album, I like took all of the beats that the producers had sort of shown up, and then I went off and like wrote a bunch of bars and I recorded demos that have never seen the light of day since. I have used some of those bars since then, actually.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like because that organization ended up sort of falling apart. It wasn't
Yeah.
sort of organized, and it didn't have sort of, uh, the kind of infrastructure that it needed it just never sort of organized in a way where it was really able to for us to put out music and put out a project.
Yeah.
And and so when the group was sort of resurrected, uh, and I found out about it my junior year, I like leaped into it instantly. It was like,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that this is a real thing and that this really
Right.
happens
Right.
seriously.
Right. 100%. And so you've done an EP as well as you're heavily featured on both Hip Hop Society
Yeah,
albums. And
yeah, and our mixtape. Don't forget the mixtape.
oh, and yeah, oh, can't forget the
Society Summer.
yeah,
Only available on SoundCloud.
yeah,
Those
yep,
who know the real ones know to go
yeah,
check out the SoundCloud if they want all the content.
yeah. No, so why did you decide to do an EP rather than an album? Why an independent EP, and why at that time?
Um, that's a good question. I think it was a bunch of different things. Well, so at the time, I when I right before I got back, but right before sort of Hip Hop Society came back and I got back into it, I
Mhm.
had sort of told myself like, I'll write raps, I'll like do a rap for like a project, and I'll like write stuff, but I'm not really going to be a rapper. I'd sort of like
Yeah.
told myself that just wasn't going to be a thing, and that
Hmm.
just wasn't going to happen. Mostly because I just didn't have the connections. I think a lot of music and art in general like involves like you need the resources, and you need other people. And I think it's particularly with hip hop, like I didn't produce, and so I didn't necessarily have people uh, who made beats
Yeah.
that I could use. And I also just didn't sort of have a support system of other artists
Yeah.
to sort of encourage me on to do it. Um, Aside from maybe one other friend, and again he was a rap like Reed. He goes by Recap
Yeah.
when he's rapping. You
Yeah.
also check out his music. Reed
Yeah.
was sort of doing his own thing, and his a lot of his music was he coordinated with a lot of people via the internet. Um, and so that was a whole lot sort of other thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, with hip hop, but then I got getting into Hip Hop Society. I met a lot of people who encouraged me that it was like a thing I could do. I most notably is probably Jonah Free. Jonah
Hmm.
Free. I remember having like a late night until like Jonah in my apartment at like I think that conversation went until like 2 or 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
But us just talking for a long time, and him telling me like this is a thing you could actually do, and like I want to try and help you do
Hmm.
it. And so yeah, I think again it was just like it was that thing of like, okay, I'm around people now who
Yeah.
are who have the means to sort of make production, and who I can work with in order to realize sort of what, also just like being able to mix and master songs, um, and something like that. So I mean, to your question about like why an EP rather than an album,
Hmm.
I feel like because I wanted to give myself room to, I feel like starting small was a good way to not put too much pressure on myself, if that makes sense. And which I did plenty of anyway, to be clear. Like I'm very much in a lot of ways I'm very very perfectionist, and I'm very sort of like I'm serious about making sure I'm putting out good content. But I feel like with the EP it was like I wanted to start small, and grow, and not necessarily try to like hit something really big immediately,
Okay.
um, because I think I was also just taking cues from a lot of my favorite rappers who before they ever put out like major albums, put out like 6 mixtapes or what have you. Like
Yeah.
you need, I think you really do need that time to like, I think, to work through, I think it was also just like, if I set myself like, oh, I'm doing only a certain number of songs, I can like really focus my energy into those songs,
Yeah.
and not spread myself too thin. The other reality is like, I was, I was in college at the time, and I was doing a lot of music for society. Like
Yeah.
we had just made an album.
Mm-hmm.
We were probably going to do, we ended up doing one the following year, and we were continuing to sort of make other music. And so it was just a thing for me of like, I want to sort of take my time and not sort of try and go like,
Yeah.
I guess like not overdo it. And I think it was also just, um, also like the OEEP,
Yeah. No,
which is
that's
the
what I
name
was
of
about
our
to say. Like
EP.
that makes
For what
sense.
that's worth, the
Yeah.
OEEP, check it out on Bandcamp and SoundCloud.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a ring
just a
to it.
cool name. It was
Yeah.
just a cool name, and I wanted to
Yeah.
sort of,
No.
I just like, I had that name in my head, and I was like, okay, I gotta make that EP.
Yeah.
So that was
And
sort of, yeah.
so and I remember also I forget the line exactly, but doesn't Adamir shout you out on his album like, "Oh, I was gonna make this an EP, but then
Yeah, go check. Speaking of music, you
we
should check out.
we
Go
have a
check out
whole interview
Adamir's
with
album.
Adamir. We have a whole
Oh, you
interview.
did an interview with him? Okay,
Yeah,
great, super.
whole
Yeah,
interview.
that's awesome. Yeah. Everything is. Go check out Everything Is Good on all streaming services
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah, that album is great. I mean,
Mhm.
like, yeah, Adamir had a, yeah. What is that like? He says, almost made this an EP instead of an album. Oh, he told me take up space and see the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we did have a conversation. Like, I think, Adamir had made a mixtape in his senior year of high school, and
Yep.
then he was working on the album. I basically told him, among the sort of other feedback I gave him during that
Mhm.
process, like a big thing I told him was like, take your time, and try and make it into the project you want it to
Mhm.
be. Um, and if that's an EP, and if that's an EP, great. If it's an album, great. But I guess don't feel like you have to, um, do it a particular way, I guess, because it seems like it makes the most sense for your career or whatever. It's like the art just has to lead first.
Mhm.
And I think particularly for him with Everything Is Good, like that was just, a pretty sort of conceptual project. And
Yeah.
I think he had like an arc in mind for it, and I think that just lended itself well to an album.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And so how
I'm
have
so
like
proud of that kid.
yeah. No, so how have the reactions to your album been? Specifically, you mentioned Jonah, you had a whole conversation. How have the reactions from your friends been with your EP now that it's been out for a
Oh, with
while?
my EP,
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's been out for like almost 6 months now,
Mhm.
um, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, like, I'm well, like with my friends at least. Like every one of my friends is super super duper supportive and wonderful to me about the EP.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of people came there to support me when I did a release show for it. Uh, Everyone was sort of had a lot of nice stuff to say when it first came out. I'm like, I feel like it's sort of interesting to think about, because looking back on it, so I started working on that EP in like April of 2019, which was
Mhm.
right after we had put out the first album for Hip Hop Society. So it was just
Right.
like on to the next thing. And the idea and the hope was to sort of finish it before we all left for the summer. Specifically, like, one of the producers I was working with was, like, had to go at a certain time, so we were trying to make that deadline, and it just didn't end up happening,
Mhm.
for a variety of reasons. And so then didn't work on it, and I just sort of let it sit and marinate over the summer, and then we came back to it in the fall,
Yeah.
uh, and in some and put it out in November. And I feel like, I, I mean, first of all, I'm glad I waited, because there were a lot of those songs that needed time, and I needed time
Yeah.
to sort of rework them and think about them and stuff
100%.
like that. But the other sort of, I think, consequence of that was, when we put it out, I was in my last semester of college.
Hmm.
It's a weird trip to look back at. Like, so I graduated early. I graduated in the
Yeah.
fall semester, and like I put the EP out. We were working on the second album for Society. We were working on
Hmm.
Society shit at the time. Was one of the things. So we were working on that. I was also working on a book
Right.
that
Right.
I had published.
Yes.
Um, I'm also a poet and a writer.
Hmm.
In addition to being a performer,
Yeah.
and so that was taking up a lot of my brain space. And also, I was just trying to graduate. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like,
No.
I'm very glad like the EP came out when it did, but I was definitely like, it definitely like came out in the midst of a lot of other shit that was going on in my
No.
life,
I
and it
like
was
that.
just sort of, yeah.
I like that though, because it was like a closing note on your time at Emerson, because it was your final semester.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and I'm super proud. It's crazy to me that I was able to like put out like sort of a body of musical work and also a book and also like finish up all my papers and a thesis
Hmm.
sort of in the space of this one semester. But it also just meant I was like very busy and stretched myself pretty thin.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, and one of, if there's anything I sort of regret about that, is I don't think the rollout for the EP was all I could have wished it could have been. Maybe to be fair, that's just sort of because I'm looking at how good Adamir's rollout has been the past like month or so.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Adamir's rollout for his album has been dope. It's been so awesome, and I
Yeah.
wish I could have done something like that for the EP.
Yeah. And we
It
have a
didn't
great
work out that
interview.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like also like, yeah, and it's super great that it gets to be like that for him. And like,
Mhm.
one of the things I love so much, and have loved
Yeah.
so much about being a part of the Hip Hop Society, is
Mhm.
watching how each one of us has sort of, how we progress each other, and how
Yeah.
how each one of us is just keeps coming out with something new, and we sort of keep
Yeah.
like Danny had her album in September, and
Yep.
that was a huge moment. It
Yeah.
wasn't like hip hop, but it was just sort of a beautiful moment when that came out.
Mhm.
I dropped the EP. Adamir's now coming out with the album. It just feels like
Yeah.
everyone is
And
sort of
yeah.
blossoming and feeding off each other and just growing even more.
Yeah. And I think with
And that's really
him,
wonderful.
I think he saw like the kind of technical difficulties that you went through with getting your album out, and then
Yeah. Oh yeah.
he kind of learned from that, from how
Totally.
how I
Yeah. Well, I think he definitely like he put out the album later, I think, than he meant to, because I mean, obviously because of the
he
coronavirus
did. Yeah,
situation.
we talked about that.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that was wise on his part, and
Yeah.
it was smart.
Hmm.
And I feel like for me, I maybe didn't necessarily, I could have waited longer on putting out the EP,
Yeah.
and a part of me wanted to, um, but one, like, I was getting pressure from some of the other people who were working on that project,
Yeah. No.
to put it out, and with good reason, uh, but also like, at a certain point you have to let it go, and you just have to
Yeah.
put it out in the world. One of the things Jonah told me
Hmm.
has told me, one of the good pieces of advice, one of the things he said for like me specifically is like, you need to get, I think when he originally said to me, he's like, you need to get like a song to where it's like 85% and then put it out. Because if you spend all your time trying to get it to 100%, you're going to
Oh,
kill yourself.
yeah. No, that.
Just
Yeah.
because, just for me personally, and I'm not saying that in a way of like people shouldn't try and put out their best work. Like, absolutely you
No.
should, but at a certain point you like there's just no more work to be done,
No.
and
Like.
you can just keep perfecting the song and nitpicking
Yeah.
into infinity. And then I sort of like argued with him, was like, let's say like 90%, I can get a song 90% done, and then
I
I'll put
said
it out.
I saw a quote that I was gonna like tweet, that was like, everyone, like, all of y'all are getting held back because you're trying to be perfectionists. And I was like, I feel that, but like, also I don't want to like say that out loud because it might offend some people. But no, like,
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm just very aware of it in myself. Like, I
yeah.
know that I tend to do that, and I think I've had arguments with people about this.
Hmm.
I actually don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. entirely, because I think the impulse to try and make your work as good as it possibly can be,
Yeah.
I think that's critical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're just putting stuff out into the world on a whim and not really giving it time and care,
Right.
I think that that's sort of, there's
Yeah.
negative consequences to that.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I also have to realize, like, you know, it's all, I think it's like anything, it's all about balance. Like, you have to get it to a place where it's, you know, as good as it can possibly be, like
Mm-hmm.
really try and strive for that as much as you
Yeah.
can, but also be able of recognizing when you can't do any more work, and
Right.
you just have to let it
Yeah.
go and sort of let
Well,
it into the world.
I like the album a lot personally, you know.
Thank
A
you, I
lot
appreciate
because you
that.
know it's funny because I play the music that like all my friends make for people who don't know you, and they're like
I
when I
appreciate that,
play
spreading the good word.
yeah no when I play like your music, like people are listening and they're like into it, but then they look at me and they're like but like they're like this is dope, but like you listen to this, I'm like yeah I listen, like nah it's cool, it's I like how you're like on
Interesting.
a how like it's like very like inoffensive, but like also you're like very unapologetic the whole time, you know. I like you know.
Yeah, I think I try it. I mean, it's interesting because like rap is such a, and hip hop is such a sort of energized form, right? There's a lot of
Yeah,
sort of, I think a lot of people get into it because it is a place where you can be unapologetic,
yeah,
and for me, I think it's a thing of like confidence. Like, normally I am not a super confident, and also I'm just not a, I try to not be a particularly arrogant
yeah,
person.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't necessarily think that's a great way to move through the world.
yeah,
Um, but I also like, but in rap, like rap is cathartic for me because it's a place where I can, you know, I can talk my shit.
yeah,
It's also a place where I can like be honest about my insecurities, and where like both of those can live in the same space and
mm-hmm.
balance each other.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
You,
that's important
you
to me.
you fuck your girl and then you take her to Panera.
Oh my god, I knew you were gonna bring up that line. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so that
How
line
that I
will
love that
haunt
line.
me to my grave. I'm glad you like it. I
Yeah,
like, honestly, I probably would have rewritten that line if Tal Beats hadn't loved it so much.
yeah,
Just because and I mean, my girl doesn't mind. Like, my partner
mm,
is cool. Was cool
yeah.
with it. I check you know, all the bars I write about my partner. I like check in with her, and
You
I'm
gotta
like,
make sure.
is this cool? Is this cool?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because I don't know. I just see so many rappers like saying wild stuff
Oh, we
about
talked about that.
their partners,
Yeah, we
and I'm
talked
like,
about that on Tayshawn's.
did you screen this with them? Are they cool with
No,
this?
yeah, 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 no,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I just, yeah.
But
I think
how'd
you
you
were
feel
talking about
about?
that, like with Tayshawn.
Yeah, yeah, no, I just said yeah,
I
yeah,
re-listened
yeah,
to that episode actually,
yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
like a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
no,
crazy.
yeah. How'd you come up with that line though?
It's a true story. What
Oh,
did I
okay,
tell
okay,
you?
okay.
Like,
Yeah,
like, I mean,
one of my
let's, okay. If we wanna talk about like
no,
the sweet sentimental side
we
of it, like,
no,
I don't need to get into specifics. All I will say is, me and my partner go to Panera a lot
yeah.
because we both have sort of like we both have particular, I have food allergies, so we and she's a super taster, and like we have
Word.
these particular sort of like
She's a
food
super
needs and
taster.
dietary needs. Yeah.
I am
And so
too.
like, oh,
Word.
word.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
yeah. And so like Panera can like accommodate that really well, and we just go to Panera a lot
Mm-hmm.
when she comes to the city to visit me.
Yeah.
You know that
My
Panera that's like down Tremont
no,
on the
exactly what
corner?
you're
Like,
talking about. Yeah,
yeah, we go to that a lot.
yeah. My favorite, one of my favorite lines of all time, which the Panera line is reminiscent of. I'm kind of beefing with this guy now, so like we don't talk anymore. But he had this line
Right.
where he said, "If you're looking for a good time, girl, you're in luck because I don't Netflix and chill, I Kingdom Hearts and fuck." And that's just
Oh my god.
that line was very funny to me because
I have some friends who'd love that line.
he had a whole
That's
thing.
crazy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd also be lying if I said it wasn't probably a little subliminally influenced by the Queen herself, Beyonce. And it was
yeah,
actually funny as hell because I was about to put out the EP, and you know that really cringy performance that Taylor Swift did on, I guess it was, what was it, like I don't remember what award show, but it was basically sort of ripping off Beyonce's Homecoming performance.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Her
Mhm.
Coachella performance,
Yes,
and
I know exactly.
someone like took a screenshot of one part of the performance and
Yeah,
tweeted like, "When he fucked me good, I take his ass to Panera," because it was Taylor Swift and
yeah,
she's
that's
white as
funny.
hell.
That's funny.
Um, and so it is sort of a. I wasn't thinking of that when I wrote the line, but
Yeah.
looking back on it, I was like, oh yeah, it is kind of paying homage in that
No,
way,
you
which
do a
I think is
lot of
cool.
yeah. No, you do a lot of like whenever you're like featured on a song or like when or just on your songs in general, you really like
Hmm.
go like further than other people just like saying just name dropping a bunch of people just saying a bunch of stuff like what
Thank
kind
you, I
of what
appreciate that.
inspires you to do that all the time. It kind of reminds me of like Kendrick or kind of what like Denzel is doing nowadays with like
Yeah,
yeah his
yeah.
stuff.
Well, I mean, I think it comes back to like, again, at the end of the day, like I you know I don't know if I'm gonna make it big as a rapper or
Yeah.
anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that's like, but at the end of the day, like I'm just a fan. I just love
Yeah.
hip hop. I love the
Yeah.
culture. I love it, and it sort of comes back to like when I
Mhm.
fell in love with rap. One of the things I love so much about hip hop and about rap
Mhm.
is that there is this kind of, I guess, not secret language to it, but you have to learn sort of the language of
Yeah.
hip hop, and I love what my favorite one of my favorite things when I was first getting into hip hop, and still to this day, is when I like listened to a song and there are references made that I don't necessarily get. And then obviously I go to Genius or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Mhm.
I like learn about all the sort of connections and all the name drops and all the stuff that's being referenced. Uh, like I love that. I love that's a thing that hip hop does in this. Hip hop is a very sort of forgive me for getting like sort of like pretentious academic on you here, but it's a very I when I was I did a lot of research on hip hop when I was for a couple classes, and like it's a very postmodern form because it relies so much on sampling, both in terms of like the music itself, like the instrumentals and sampling, but also just in terms of how self-referential it is and how
Mhm.
much there's so much of an acknowledgement in hip hop. I feel like of the fact that this art is the byproduct of many, many years before this person's worth of art. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
the art. It's like it's sort of this idea of art is like not this sort of immaculate thing, this immaculate original thing that comes in the world out of nowhere, but
Mhm.
as the byproduct of just all the sort of influences on the artist. And
Yeah.
that coming out in the music. And I feel like hip hop really wears that on its sleeve. And so for me, it's just a thing about like I just want to do the same thing. And I love that it's like a thing of like, if you know, you know. You know what I mean? If there's
Yeah.
like a reference dropped and you like know what it's about, it's like, oh, like it
Mhm.
fills you with this sort of like particular energy that there's
Yeah.
a common understanding between you and the
Mhm.
other person, and the artist that you're listening to. And if you don't know the reference, like you learn, and when
Yeah.
you find out what that reference is, it's like sort of like unlocking a door to a whole other hallway of doors, and it's
Mhm.
just a way of learning so much more about the world and about other people's lives and the way other people think. I mean, I've been listening to Dissect a lot, the
Oh,
Dissect
okay.
podcast. I'm late as hell on this podcast, y'all, but I'm loving it, and I think it's really cool because it like really delves into sort of like that sort of like
Yeah.
close connection. So
I
yeah,
I have
I
not
like it that
no, I've
yeah,
not
and I
listened.
like that it can.
I have not listened, but we do
They're
have the
doing
same,
Lemonade.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
they're
doing
doing
Lemonade for this new
yeah.
season.
No, I've
I'm
listened, but we
not
do have
caught
the
up yet at
same
all.
yeah, we do have the same distributor, me and them in this podcast.
Oh, word, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, that's a great podcast,
Mhm.
and I really like fuck with just again it's just like again like I'm a writer first, so like thinking about rap as a text, um, and all those sort of connections and references that can be made, and the ways that people can connect to stuff. And I also think like I do not like I maybe bring a set of references to the table that isn't super usual in rap,
Right,
or
yeah.
or maybe hasn't been seen
Mhm.
so much because I don't come from a
Yeah.
background of listening to hip hop originally, but I also I one of the things I love to do is reference hip hop, but also reference like other sort of like nerdy stuff that I know about in my life, or
Yeah.
other stuff I'm into.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, you
It's
reference
a
a lot of literature stuff. I
Yeah. Well, I'm a I'm an I'm an English major.
yeah.
That is a lot of sort of what I come from, and what I know.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's cool. I love so much like these days. I feel like one of the things I love about Denzel Curry, right, is like he has this like he has a lot of the references that you maybe have seen traditionally in hip hop
Hmm.
from hip hop culture or whatever, but he also brings like all these like nerdy anime references
Yeah.
and like video game stuff
Yeah.
into his raps, and that's super cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's what he wants to do after rapping. He wants to voice act in animes and have his own comic book and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. With the Unlocked project, he and Kenny Beats just did, like, you can definitely see like his vision for
Yeah.
himself sort of expands
Hmm.
beyond just rapping. But again, like I mean, the other reason like I feel like I make sort of certain references and name drop a bunch of people is again it's a
Hmm.
way of like letting people know who I am more. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like giving a more like when you hear a certain rapper like say like make a reference, it's like, oh, you know about that, you have
Hmm.
that, like it helps you sort of learn more about them, um and shows sort of a fuller picture of who that person is.
Hmm.
And I think I mean it's also just a thing for me of like paying homage. I think that's
Yeah.
super important in hip hop, and I think maybe not uh, there's a lot of like people who don't necessarily appreciate the history and like
Yeah.
where all of this is coming from, and I don't I don't think any of us exist just on the basis of ourselves and ourselves only.
Yeah.
um so yeah.
You have a line on one of your songs where you say like the only people who will diss you are like the ones that will care enough to diss you.
Oh yeah. What is that line? What's that song? Which
Yeah.
song is that? Hang on.
I just don't
um
remember that, but like I can't recall which exact song.
I'm having trouble remembering too. I should be better remembering. uh
No, but I was, and then you also don't you diss don't you take shots?
I think you might actually be miss saying that, like, because I think what it actually
Oh, okay.
is it's I know which one. I think I know what you're referencing
Okay.
now. There's a line in "Kills Me," which is off of the OEEP, "Kills Me," where I
Hmm.
say I mostly rap as if I mostly rap as if I have someone who cares enough to diss me listening, but if I disappeared, who would really miss me? So it's
Yeah.
actually sort of the opposite of that. It's like like I think I often sort of approach my bars and my rapping as if like I don't know, as if I'm like bigger than I am, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like I rap as if I and this just comes again with taking like the rapping seriously, but like I know that I don't have like a ton of listeners. Hopefully maybe that'll change after this podcast. But you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I know that my audience is maybe not super broad right now because I'm a newer rapper, but I think it's important to me, like I rap as if everyone is listening, and as if um like I've got people, and it's
Yeah.
kind of a self-deprecating line in the sense of like I know no one is trying to come and diss me. No
Yeah.
one's trying to like fire shots at me,
Okay.
but I rap as if like someone were to try to,
Hmm.
I'd be ready, and I
Yeah.
could take them.
And don't you take shots at someone during the song Presidential Shit off of Society Shit?
I do indeed. I
Yeah.
do indeed. You can
Who
go
I
listen
didn't
to
know, I'm
presidential
not I was
shit.
not familiar with who that was. Should we
Yeah.
keep talking about this person or no?
We I mean, yeah, I mean, we can maybe talk about it a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I don't have much to say on it. Like, I don't think this person has heard that song.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think they're likely to respond to it. Maybe they do, and maybe they will respond to it. But I don't know. I didn't really say it to start beef.
Yeah.
I said it because it needed to be said.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Um.
And if you know the situation and you know who I'm talking about, like you would understand why.
Okay.
And I think that's what I will say
Yeah.
on that.
Do you do you view, I mean, I guess you kind of explained it already. Do you view like your peers as like competition or as like friends who are, because you have a lot of friends in the rap
I don't think the two are
industry.
mutually exclusive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
right.
you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
and actually that was one of the things I loved so much about Addie's album, about
Yeah,
particularly the track 19.
yeah.
Like I loved listening to that album when it came out and sort of just like hearing stuff in a new way, because I had heard like all those songs before because he showed me demos and got my feedback on stuff. But I
Mhm.
was like really listening to like 19, and that second verse just I think really sums up so much of I think my experience with, he says on there like, I'm an artist and the hardest part of that, I'm an artist among artists, and the hardest part of that is me feeling like I don't deserve to be around them. And then he goes into sort of talking more
Yeah.
about like
Hmm.
what that is like. He also says like, I look up to y'all, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't use them as a gauge to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And my brain will set a trap. Like, and that is just like so true. Like, I think it's, I like hip hop is just competitive. Period. That's just what it's like.
Hmm.
And I really like that aspect of it.
Hmm.
I think it can sometimes go too far. But
Yeah.
I do think that one of the, I think people are pushed to do their best.
Hmm.
I think you see consistently that people are pushed to do their best when they feel like there's someone they have to do better than.
Hmm.
Um, and and I don't know. Maybe I don't know about that. Maybe that's not fair,
Yeah.
because I do think it's possible to do your best without having to be in constant competition with people.
Hmm.
And I'm very like aware, and I think a little conscious of myself. Like I never want to like, because my friends are my friends, because as Adamir said on the album, like, y'all are friends first and competition third, and I
Yeah.
agree with that absolutely. Like, I want it to be about my friends and not be constantly like worrying
Of
about like,
course.
oh, is this person better than me, and feeling resentful about that, because it's got to be about the community, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
um I think it's, and so I think it's similarly to like what I was saying before about balance. Again, it's like that balance. You have to like, I think, have enough of a sense of competition to like feel like you're being pushed by the other people, but not so much that you like start to get like jealous or resentful, because that's
Yeah.
not productive for anyone.
Right.
And like not you, and I just, you see that a lot of the time, and I just don't, I would be lying if I said that I've never, like I was saying, like I was watching Addie's rollout for his album and being like,
Hmm.
damn, I wish I had like had something, what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's not like something for me to like have a problem with Adamir
Right. Right.
about,
Right.
or
Yeah.
like
Of course.
have a problem with it. It's to push me to do better and to push
Yeah.
me to do even more. And I think
Yeah.
that's what it's really about. One of the things
Hmm.
I love most in rap, I love seeing like how artists get when they're featured. Like that thing of how like certain artists, when they're featured on a song,
Hmm.
go way harder than when they than just on their own joints. Um
Because they gotta introduce themselves again to.
yeah, and also just because like there's another rapper there, like there's another
Yeah.
person, like when it's just you on a song, sometimes you can maybe get complacent
Hmm.
and not feel that sense of like, oh, I gotta like really bring my A game. Not even
Hmm.
necessarily like I have to be better than this person,
Yeah.
but I have to do my absolute best so that I'm at least up to par with them and maybe a little better.
Hmm.
But like it's just that I think ultimately it just has, again, it has to do with like, I think it also has to do with respect, honestly. Like
Hmm.
if I'm not trying to do my, if I'm not looking at the people around me like Danny and like Adamir,
Yeah.
um and other people who are just like incredible artists and amazing rappers, and I'm not sort of looking at them and being like, oh, I have to like perform as well as these people perform,
Hmm.
um then I'm not pushing myself. And I think you should. I think about like people talked about this with like J. Cole.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's fair, because I think J. Cole raps really well on his own songs, but
Yeah.
he did have that incredible run of features through like last year and a little
Yeah.
bit of the year before that. You know what I mean?
That
And a
was
lot of people
interesting.
were like, where is this Cole been?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I also think about another favorite example of mine and my friend David's particularly. This is, but like I don't know if you know the song Mode 2. It's by Prime, that Royce da 5'9" DJ
Yes.
DJ
Yes, I
Premier.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
know that
Mode
song.
2 featuring Logic,
Right.
and it's a great song because
Mm-hmm.
because it's Royce and Logic, and however you feel about Royce and Logic, like listen to this song. It's amazing to hear like Royce starts, and he's super great because Royce is an amazing rapper, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Then Logic comes in and he's super, and he's even better. Like he's pushing the bar up.
Oh,
And
okay.
then Royce comes in again, and then Logic comes in. Like they just keep trading verses
Yeah.
back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like I don't know if this is actually what the process of this song was like, but what David always says and what I've sort of agreed with is like it sounds like Royce did a verse, had Logic, and then Logic did his verse, and Royce heard it and was like, well, shit, I need to go and do another. I need to go
Yeah.
harder than that. I can't be one upped like
Mm-hmm.
that. And he went back in the booth, and then Logic heard Royce's verse and was like, oh, I gotta go back in the, and like they just
Yeah. Yeah.
kept, and it just pushes, it just pushes the song into these like wonderful heights. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the sort of thing of it's a healthy competition.
Yeah.
It's pushing each other to do the best you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and just getting to those heights.
Yeah.
Um,
So we've been playing this game on the show. So choose one person who you who you want to collab with, who you know personally, or like know of, like,
oh, word.
and then one person who you know, like who you know, but like you don't know personally.
What do we consider personally? Is it like
Like
we've met them or
you've met them or
we're
been in the
friends
same
or
room,
what?
like someone who you can like
Okay,
approach. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. Um, Let me think about that. Hmm. I feel like for someone I like know, and I'm thinking like, obviously I'm thinking like people in the Boston scene
Yeah.
because that's sort of my reference point for like artists and rappers that I know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would I would love to do a song with Oompa.
Okay.
And that's sort of like very uh, wishful thinking because Oompa is big, you know what I mean? Like, but I love Oompa. Like I've met Oompa and had
Yeah.
conversations with Oompa, and
I have not met
they're,
Oompa.
you know, yeah, she's just an incredible
Yeah.
artist, really cool person to be around,
Mm-hmm.
and just keeps sort of pushing. I mean, Cleo was one of my favorite albums of 2019.
Yeah.
That's not even like on some like support Boston shit. It was just like
Yeah.
it was just an incredible album, and I
No, it's
really
fantastic.
loved it. And
Yeah.
I would love to. Maybe I might be confusing like wanting it to like me wanting to collaborate with Oompa with like wanting Hip Hop Society to collaborate with Oompa. You know what I mean? Like I would just love to see an Oompa feature on a Hip Hop Society album. That would be dope.
Yeah. I know
But
she came for
also
a talk though.
I wouldn't be mad at an Oompa feature on
Yeah.
an OE album.
Yeah,
So
she came for a talk once, and I was a big fan of Oompa, but I forget what exactly I had to do, but I was busy with something else, so I was very very let down
yeah.
that I could not go to that.
Yeah, nah,
But
Oompa's amazing. Go listen to Cleo if you haven't.
yes,
Um,
yes,
that yeah,
mm,
that would be amazing. Um, in terms of
yeah,
someone I know, there honestly also like there I can also just think of like my honestly my friend Reed, who I've talked about, like we've never done a
yeah,
collab even though we've known each other for years.
yeah,
To be fair, he's been kind of not making as much music these days,
uh-huh,
just because of sort of where he's at career wise.
mm,
But that would be cool. Uh, but yeah, Oompa. And then for someone I don't know,
yeah,
this is like, oh, this is like dream rapper sort of combo. This is like,
mm-hmm,
who would I want to collaborate with? Who I feel like would be good. Um, I would really love. I mean, Cole is a big influence, so I would love to collaborate with Cole. But I
mm-hmm.
also Cole or Kendrick. But I also know that I would be super like terrified and overwhelmed if I was in the same room as them. Like I just would be like, just it would just be crazy
Yeah,
for me to even sort of be in their presence, much less like work on a song with them.
mm-hmm,
And so I can't even imagine that right now.
yeah,
But that would be that'd be amazing one day. I also I would really love. I feel like a song. I would love to do a song with Saba. Um,
yeah. That I can
that's what I was
see
saying
that.
because
Yeah,
I really fuck with Saba. Care for Me a amazing album, and I actually
No, no.
I came back to that album while we've been in quarantine, and it's been a real gift to come back to it. It's a gift every
Mm,
time I come back to it, and I
yeah.
sort of I love looking at sort of like Saba's trajectory, and I
Mhm.
think he'd be a really dope artist to work
Yeah.
with. Who I like am a fan of and admire, but who I also feel like I could, I just would love to just like chill with him and like have a
Mhm.
conversation with him about shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what are your plans for right now? What's next for OE?
I mean, what are anyone's plans right now?
Yeah, no, that's
That's the
true.
question. I mean,
But
like
like creatively.
I it's I mean, well, it's kind of an interesting situation because like, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Quarantine has
Yeah.
been I'm spending a lot of time in the inside of my own head, which is not
Mm.
always the best place to be. But I do think it's good that I'm sort of, I guess, having to grapple with that.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not gonna lie. I've been in a weird place, just sort of like existentially
Yeah.
since I graduated, just because it's a very strange thing to be like going for. I think this is true of anyone who graduates from college and doesn't like go straight on to grad school. Like,
Mhm.
you spend the majority of your life in some kind of school or
Yeah.
like structured institution, and then all of a sudden there's sort of no structure in your life other
Right.
than like work, and I like have
Yeah.
like
And then you're
my work
quarantined.
and my job and stuff, but
Mhm.
that's like, you know what I mean? It's just like I have a lot more. I have a lot more. It's not that I necessarily have more free time. It's just I have way more choice
Mhm.
over how to use my time and how to spend my free time, and I feel like than I've sort of had before, and I feel like I'm trying to to come to terms with and decide sort of what I want to do with that, especially now. I mean, it's crazy with the quarantine is like everyone's been thrown into that situation, right?
Mhm.
We are now all, I mean, maybe not all of us. Shout out to all the essential workers and everybody who is sort of not who is not as fortunate
Yeah.
as I am,
Mhm.
to be able to be like home with your family
Right.
and not going out and risking your
Mhm.
life every day. But I do feel like for a lot of us, right, we're being put in this position where we're just like there's less structure to our lives, right? And
Yeah.
there's way less certainty about there's way less certainty about what's going to happen tomorrow, and
Exactly.
our sort of ability to plan has kind of been
Mhm.
broken.
Yeah.
I mean, before all of this happened, I would say like my next plans for OE
Yeah.
would have been like, you know, trying to tour. I think was a big goal of mine for this
Okay.
year,
So keep going on
because
the yeah, okay.
yeah, which I wasn't really able to do right after I dropped the EP for
Yeah.
obvious reasons,
Uh-huh.
because the people I would have toured with would like, like we're still at Emerson, and we were also
Yeah.
still working on society shit. Like
Right.
that's the other thing I have to like keep in mind and try to not like beat myself too up
That's
like beat myself up too
yeah.
much for is like I feel like I don't I'm not really I haven't really been aware how like crazy the pace has been like in the past
Oh, it
like
still it
less
feels
than a
like I
year
left
and a
yesterday. Yeah.
yeah, like in less than a year and a half, like I've dropped an EP of my own,
Yeah.
featured like done multiple records on 2 albums,
Yeah.
a mixtape, and like also that like little Halloween
Yeah.
joint that we dropped.
Right.
And so like that's just like a lot of output, and I feel
Mhm.
like I haven't necessarily had a had a break from
Yeah.
working at it. And I I I'd be lying if I said like there's a bit of me that isn't itching to sort of get back to making music, and that is probably what's going to happen. I think right,
Mhm.
like I would have loved to spend some time this year like touring, because it gives me a chance to like take, I have multiple albums worth of songs out, even though I've only like dropped one EP. Um,
Mhm.
and playing that release show for the EP with John with Talbeats. Shout out to DJ Talbeats.
He's been on the show as well.
Was yeah, and that was amazing because it just felt really good. It was like this is a thing we could tour. This is this like and I would like to do that.
Yeah.
And we talked about that, and we weren't really able to make it work during the spring semester because of sort of what was going on with society, and now we super can't make it happen.
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
shows just aren't happening for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future.
Mhm.
So I mean, as soon as and I'm trying to not like, this could go on for another year. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like we
Mhm.
don't necessarily know, and I don't think
Mhm.
it's wise to sort of get our hopes up too much
Mhm.
about getting back to any sort of version of normal anytime soon. But whenever we do get back to a place where maybe touring might be a possibility, I would love to try and put something together and go on tour. I was talking to John about this. I would love to go on tour with like me and Adamir and Danny, like the three of us. I feel like
That
that would make a
that would
really
be cool, especially because we had all three of y'all and John on these Zoom podcasts together. Be
yeah, exactly. That would be cool too.
it
Yeah,
set up
exactly. Well, and also
pretty
like
well.
I just feel like I just feel like the three of us like have a bunch of songs together on the new have like
Yeah.
multiple records on the
Mhm.
new album together, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so we could like play those together, and so that's cool. But I also just like, we have it's been the three of us in terms of like dropping like solo projects
Yeah.
relatively close to each other in the
Mhm.
past like year, and
Yeah.
I feel like none of us have really gotten a chance to perform those live much.
Yeah.
I know Danny has done a couple shows, but
Yeah.
she hasn't really toured that much, and I know
Mhm.
Adamir would have liked to perform stuff.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is I just want to see their shit performed and be able to be in the room for that every night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's that too, and so I just think that would make a really fire tour, and I think that would be a really cool way
Mhm.
for us to, because it's hard to get a tour to happen with sort of just one artist who's relatively unknown,
Mhm.
right? And so
Yeah.
I feel like the three of us sort of combining efforts and going and doing that would be really dope.
Yeah.
And maybe other people too, depending on sort of what the situation is.
No.
In the meantime, right,
Mhm.
that's obviously not possible in
Yeah.
the short term, but in the meantime, I think I've, I think I'm trying to write. I think I'm back to sort of square one in the drawing board in a lot of
Right.
ways, and just sort of trying to write stuff and not maybe necessarily worry about putting it out anytime
Yeah.
super soon, because I have a lot of content that I've put out
Yeah.
recently, and I
Mhm.
can maybe like chill, but like working on songs, putting together demos for songs that I have written, that haven't necessarily been released yet, because I haven't been able to sort of put them together, or record them, sort of doing work like that, and hopefully sometime in the longer term that'll coalesce into another project. But it's sort of too soon to say. I'm also
Mhm.
like not in the position. One of the nice things about Hip Hop Society, right, and making records with the Hip Hop Society is there's a certain structure again to it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a structure of we have a year, like we have
Yeah.
like the space of a school year, we have
Mhm.
semesters, we have to set deadlines for ourselves, we had to get the album done by a particular time, etc. When we were doing Society Summer, when we were doing the mixtape, like it was, we were putting a track every Sunday,
Mhm.
uh, and that was its own sort of crazy experience, because I was traveling over that summer,
Yeah.
and I was like I was recording on this mic that I'm using now to talk to you. Like I was recording on
Yeah.
this like small mic
Mhm.
in like the closet of the room me and my partner were in when we were in London
Yeah.
and shit, uh, to
That's
to
that's the hustle though.
make demos to
You
set
know?
up. It is,
Yeah.
and shout out to my partner too for being cool with me, like staying up late to record shit
Yeah.
and and whatnot. But yeah, it's so yeah. But like all of the point is like all of that like had a certain like deadline and structure attached to it
Mhm.
of like, oh, we gotta make something, we gotta produce something, we gotta get it done.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't really have that for me. I mean, even with the OEEP, it was like there was a certain amount of like at first it was like we got to get this done by the end of the spring semester,
Mhm.
because certain people are going to have to leave and aren't going to be able to work on it after that point, and then it was like, oh, we got to get it done by this time. So and I was working with other people who I was going to school with, so it was still sort of constrained within college time,
Mhm.
and now I'm not in that position anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think it'll be really interesting for me to see how I handle. I'm trying to be patient with myself is the main thing. I'm not trying to like
Mhm.
rush anything.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy. I definitely like, again, get in my head too much, and
Hmm.
I often feel like, oh shit, I should be more further along and I should have more stuff out. But I also like have to be like, man, take some time, like take some time for
Yeah.
yourself, and don't necessarily rush to like, I don't know, put out a project every 6 months or
Yeah. No,
whatever.
no,
Like
no, of
it's
course.
okay.
Of course. Um.
Especially since like truthfully, like I rap, but it's not like a full-time job for me
Yeah.
or anything. Like I'm not making enough of my income off of rap that like it can sort of be the only thing I focus on. It's also not the only thing I'm passionate about doing. There are a lot of other sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
artistic and
Yeah.
creative
No, you
projects
got a book. You got,
that I
yeah. You got all that going on.
right, yeah, like so
What's
but yeah,
yeah?
but yeah.
What is your favorite song you ever done? Favorite.
Ever? Oh, that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
of mine.
Yeah. Of yours. Yeah.
Shit. Oh, that's really hard.
Nah,
Dang.
it's tripped up a lot of people.
Holy shit. Dang.
Or like verse, favorite verse.
Well, verse is different than
Oh,
song,
okay, okay.
because like song, I feel like I would say maybe my favorite song I've ever um hmm like my favorite song I've ever shit, this is really hard. Oh no. My favorite, like maybe I would say either off of the EP, either You or Eagleville.
Yeah. Okay.
Are sort of are two songs that are super important. I mean, you is nominated for an Evie, and that was really cool to get
Yeah.
that sort of validation. But
Hmm.
those are songs where I sort of get more vulnerable, and I really I love those songs. Um, in terms of like society and like my favorite song that I've been a part of, uh, that maybe like honestly like I mean, I really love Windows Down right now. I'm really proud to be a part of that record.
Hmm.
Um, but I also feel like I don't necessarily. I obviously contribute to the record, but I'm not like the
Yeah.
only reason. It is such an amazing record. I'm not. I don't even think I'm the primary. I'm far from the primary reason that song is so absolutely amazing. Um,
Mhm.
but honestly, Slow Down. Slow Down is still such a classic record.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah. And I think
And
Who Is This
I'm
Kid
proud of.
is a good one too, you know.
Who is this kid too? Who is this kid is
Yeah.
I love to do who I like. This is the other thing is it's crazy. This is like it hasn't been that long ago since I put out these songs, but it feels like so long ago because I've been doing
Yeah.
so much other stuff and putting out so many other songs.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Who Is This Kid was a really cool. Who Is This Kid was one of those songs.
We
I mean,
talked
Who Is This
about
Kid's
it a
amazing because
lot
it
on John's
with
episode.
Talbeats. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Who Is This Kid for like the relationship it created with Talbeats. I also think it's a great introduction to me as a rapper.
Yeah.
I think it's good for that. And
Mhm.
I also the other thing I love about Who Is This Kid is there's I was saying earlier how I like wrote a bunch of bars when I was a freshman for like the old hip hop society that never ended up happening.
Mhm.
A lot of those bars ended up going in like being repurposed. Like obviously they weren't in the same form as I originally wrote them, but
Yeah.
going into Who Is This Kid,
Okay.
and that was really cool.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm happy that they were able to find a home there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Who Is This Kid is great. I
Yeah.
fuck with that song too.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. We should also mention, because I bring up going to Bridgeside sometimes. You were the
Oh
person
yeah,
who put me onto that, which I was very thankful for,
yeah, yeah.
because
I can't take sort of credit with being like the person who discovered the Bridgeside Cipher
oh,
from like our collective of friends and people. That's Danny.
yeah.
Danny
Oh,
was
okay.
like walking in Cambridge one day and just came across them,
Oh shit. Okay.
and then she hit me up and told me about them. And I
Yeah.
started going to the Bridgeside Ciphers. It would have been
Yeah.
like I don't know, like April or May of last year or something like that. And then I sort of wasn't there for the summer, and I came back to more in the fall and winter. And yeah, I
Yeah.
brought you to those. But yeah, Bridgeside is great.
The first one
Shout
you
out to
brought
Aaron
me
King.
to,
Shout out to all the folks over
yeah,
there.
the first one you brought me to, like I just ran into so many people I knew, and it was like and also that day Cousin Stiz was performing with Michael Christmas
Yeah.
and Sean Wire, so I was assuming that like everyone that I knew would be at that show, but then there were so many people who I knew at the Bridgeside, and I was like, how did I not know about
Wasn't Tayshawn at the first one you
it?
came
Tayshawn
to
Taylor
or
was there,
something?
and also C4 was also there, who I
Yeah,
a
C4.
few
Oh yeah, shout out to
there was a few
C4.
other
I met
people.
C4 at the Bridgeside, and
Yeah,
he's dope.
yeah, there were a few other
Yeah,
people who I knew there as well.
Yeah, Bridgeside like set a fire under my ass in a whole new way. Because before Bridgeside, I was like, I was writing like I was doing a lot of songs and putting out songs in
Mhm.
society, but I don't feel like I had been in a position where I really had to like obviously we freestyle and cipher at Home Society all the time,
Mhm.
but this was like it was like out on the street, and a lot of the people at Bridgeside like can really freestyle or just really rap
Mhm.
in that kind of setting where it's just like bars, and it really like pushed me to be like, oh shit, I need to like go and have like more like fire written verses that aren't necessarily going to go on a song, but that I can just like pull out
Yeah.
and spit.
Mhm.
Also it encouraged me to like get better as a freestyler, although
Yeah.
I'm still not like an amazing freestyler.
Yeah. No, it's
uh,
good.
but yeah, no, it's a great environment. I've gotten to meet a lot of cool people
Yeah.
through that, and that's
Mhm.
been it's been cool. And they're doing a great job of like, if you want to go support Bridgeside, like they're doing like live streams on Facebook.
Yep. I
They've
I
been
watched
doing them
them
weekly
the other
for like
day.
the past 3 or 4 weeks,
Yeah.
um, and they're super dope.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're keeping the content running during the quarantine and doing it
Yeah.
for the culture.
Well, thank you for coming on. I've wanted to do an interview with you for a while, just hasn't joined up, but I'm thankful that we can do an interview through
Yeah,
Zoom now. And
me too. Thank you,
that's
man.
gonna
I'm
end
a
that's gonna end this episode.